music multiverse listeners, and welcome to Beyond Your Radio Unknown Sundays. It's time to talk about another band, artist, something in the music multiverse that might be relatively unknown or missed, or that our watchers, collectors out there, listeners might be interested in. A rabbit hole to explore. This particular one explores actually three rabbit holes that you can go down. Please remember that this is an extension of the article section on beyondyourradio.com. So if you want the full detail there written with links and everything, it's there for you to explore. Today's Unknown Sunday 2024 has been on the list since the conception of the show. The question was, which of the soloist projects and bands were going to be the feature? I couldn't come to terms with it considering how much I was smitten with the band called The Frames as Ireland's next U2. Well, while that title was well-deserved and it never really happened, they certainly were and continue to be at this point maybe a band of considerable talent and emotional impact, just like U2. In fact, Glenn Hansard even made mention the last time I saw him in Buffalo that he had actually played a stage at the Irish Center in South Buffalo as The Frames. I don't think I'd been that slack-jawed in a long time, considering that it's basically a gymnasium. Then, of course, there's the wonderful singer, songwriter, and harmonizing vocalist, Marketa Erglova, whose charm and beautiful vocal was the perfect tone for the screenplay of Once. Yes, that's right, the Academy Award-winning song Falling Slowly, which starred Glenn Hansard and Marketa Erglova, and was actually written by one of the guys from The Frames, who was the director. So since we're in the season to be sentimental, sincere, thankful, and just all around joyful and hopeful, beautifully hopeful, I thought this would be the perfect time for the Swell season on Unknown Sundays 2024. My rabbit hole here started with, as I said, The Frames. And while I'm a sucker for the song in the album Fitzcarraldo, which I could absolutely play every day, it was actually the live recording of a album called Setlist that turned me on to the band. It was a record store clerk at Record Theater that said, it's just one of those bands that if you have never heard of them on a single song, Revelate will hook you. And just one of those recordings you had to hear to believe and understand the audience's adornment for this Dublin band. But it's all too great, my revelation. Sometimes I need your revelation. So Revelate secured that for me for sure on that record and immediately opened my wish list for more of the albums. Patiently, I was able to secure all of them in North America at reasonable prices, so the time frame pretty much in there is about 2003 to 2006. And I was enjoying every inch of the Dubliners catalog, no question. Their sincere, powerful delivery, the songwriting with Glenn Hansard as the lead, and just the way everything was delivered from a folk rock to an alternative stage. It didn't matter. They had it all. And while they might still be hanging on to The Frames, their last show was back in 2022, apparently, and the last album in 2017, I would tell you the emotional connection and passion rests mostly in the solo works and his divine attachment to ex-bassist John Carney, who winds up being the film director of Once. And then Miss Marketa Erglova comes in, his musical partner and actress in the movie as well. So this is that combination where this comes together. It was the romantic music drama of 2007, Academy Award nominated, both not only just in songwriting, that it was, I think it was for adapted screenplay as well. Tons of awards and nominations throughout the entire world for everything the movie was, and its soundtrack too. And so to this day, it's still one of the most, I'd say one of the best soundtracks of the modern era, where all songs are written, developed, and inspired within the motion picture. Now enter the formation of the two of them in a band called the Swell Season, and a pouring out of some of those songs. Again, that connection that was directly made between, in the scope of the project of the movie Once, those songs get garnered into their first record, Swell Season, and that stardom and that connection. So whether it was the piano or the acoustic guitar, the light folk, maybe contemporary, that had a passionate play and a realistic delivery that both of them could give goosebumps to an atheist. I have a friend who is one, and I think that that person experienced that. While the first album, self-titled, seemed to host more of Glenn Hansard, there was no question that the harmonics and inclusion of the beautiful placement of Erglova definitely enhanced every single section, while still giving us that feel of the vocal power and intensity of the Frames lead guy, right? When Your Mind's Made Up is a prime example of how well this worked and would suck the audience in, both worlds into the mix. The tempo, the harder edge, even violin and piano keep pace. And modernism, along with maybe, a deepness and a sadness that's within. But in July of 2010, my record store owning friend, his wife, joined my wife and I for the Swell Seasons at Asbury Hall in Buffalo, New York, which is owned by Annie DeFranco. It's basically a renovated church. The Low were the opening act, which also could be one of those unknown Sundays sometimes to explore. I think we all knew what we were expecting it to be, but what we found out was it was going to be, just an amp. We didn't expect that it was going to be amplified to the degree that it was. I was really impressed by the folk romance and the way both allowed their past incarnations, or current incarnations as they were, because Marketa Erglova already had an album out, or coming out, and Hansard was still behind on that. The set list is mostly from the new record in 2010 called Strict Joy, which kind of puts them as the duo, Nothing Remembered from Once. It's just that new style of them being together, and that folk romance is still there. The vocal lead of Hansard, her harmonics, her taking some pieces as well. So, Low Rising, In These Arms, The Rain, Lies, Fantasy Man, Back Broke, I Have Loved You Wrong, were all in that set list. But what shocked me was Revelate wound up being in there. That was a shocker. And that evening as well was Into the Mystic by Van Morrison. They did a cover that, and I think one or two Bob Dylan covers. So, and then Lowe joined them on stage at the end for like one of those, like the Bob Dylan cover, You Ain't Going Nowhere. So after the show, the folk energy and the beautiful representation of the songwriting, the skill set and the delivery of the entire band, the crew, and of course the two stars of the show, you would have thought that they could have, weathered any storm that the industry could have yielded at them. Because why? Because the foundation is in the songwriting. The passion is in the music and the apparent togetherness and the compassion of it all. Like all things are too good, this was not to be all that continually good. I don't claim to know the mindset of the duo. I am certain that Hansard certainly had a wider presence in the industry and a lot of connective tissues to the other genres. So while he probably loved and enjoyed this set of music, he has an alternative side. He's got a blues rock side. He's got a connection even to folk blues. So, and even somewhat country, if you want to go that way. So that was the last record of Swell Season. That was until The Answer Is Yes came up.
Tell me the whole story. I was there when it happened. It wasn't all roses and glory.
From the two artists, Marketa Erglova leading the vocal, and then joined by Glenn Hansard. This is the first activity on the Swell Season website, and that was 2023. So that was just last year, sort of in between her 2022 and 2024 release. Now, Hansard, he had his 23 release, which was very, very good. So it was kind of interesting to hear that. And where are we going to go from there? So I hung on, not doing this show, thinking that maybe something was coming. So I waited until today. Once was turned into a music Broadway show in 2012. Not only great run, but all kinds of nominations, awards. My mother saw it, and when it was in Buffalo, and she had nothing but great things to say about it. There's still no word on what the answer is in that yes. Obviously, Marketa Erglova has her family and everything else, but I thought that the answer is yes, might have been that we're going to see another album. But there's still no word on that at this point. However, the band, Swell Season, will be performing here in July in Rochester at the wonderful Kodak Theater in 2025. And if you missed the Swell Season back in the day when I saw them, I would recommend that you go. The two songwriting champions and their deliveries are something that you should experience. It is a part of nostalgia in a way. These two are going to be remembered for quite some time, especially Glenn Hansard. Erglova has a wonderful catalog as well that I'll talk about in a second. The maturity of their careers and sound devices these days might lead to very interesting set lists, and that's one of the other reasons you may want to go too. Who knows? You may even hear Fitzcarraldo. Here's hoping that this will spur more than the single from 2023. Albums of the Swell Season, which I have them all, is 2006 debut of the same name, and then Strict Joy in 2009. For Marketa Erglova, her first album, Anar, 2011, I have that one. Muna, 2014, I have that one. Lila in 2022, I don't have that one. And just this year, Where You Belong in 2024. Glenn Hansard, which I have all of his albums. It was Rhythm and Response, which was 2012, which was long after Once and the Swell Season. Didn't He Ramble in 2015? Between the Shores in 2018. This Wild Willing, 2019. And All That Was East is West of Me Now in 2023. As for the Frames, I have their entire catalog except the final one. Another Love Song in 1991. Fitzcarraldo, 1995, which is a great place to start. Dance the Devil, in 1999. For the Birds in 2001. Burn the Maps in 2004. The Cost in 2006, which has a couple of the tracks that were utilized in Once. Longitude in 2015, which I don't have. What did you think of the Swell Season? Did you remember them? Did you remember Once? Have you seen it? Let me know what you think of that movie, as well as the soundtrack. And of course, the rabbit holes of Marketa Erglova and Glenn Hansard, as well as the Frames. Where are you in that attachment and stuff? What would you rather continue on, or what would you rather stop? I'd love to have it all, but hey, we can usually never have it all. Please comment, leave us a note or two. Please click the like button if you feel that way. And of course, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a thing, because YouTube will remind you what we got going on. I'll see you next week for another Unknown Sundays. And of course, remember, daily, we're dropping the top 24 albums of 2024. We're on the web at beyondyourradio.com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, of course. Articles, videos, and podcasts, which is coming soon. Albums, bands, artists, anything we can get our hands on. Go Beyond Your Radio with us, a real music appreciation channel. Thanks for watching, and happy listening.